welcome back. I'm Zyon Fleming here with
Christopher Daniels.
And we're here to chop it up, man. You know, it's just some nice behind the scenes. It's a pleasure sitting down with you, of course,
For sure.
Chris.
Thanks for having me, man.
And I know you're doing wonderful things out there, and we're going to just break that down a couple in this episode today. And we're going to make sure we have, you know, a sense of community behind this and making sure people know who we are, who you are.
For sure.
What you're doing, what are you trying to do, you know. And like we said, let's get started.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
So, first off, Chris, where are you from?
So I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm a Florida boy, born and raised.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here, sitting down with somebody from Ohio, man, I could think of as Cleveland.
It's a long way from Florida, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, just let me know, what are you doing right now?
So I'm a real estate investor here in Tallahassee. So I primarily invest near FAMU's campus. So the neighborhood that I invest primarily in is Bond. I also have properties in Frenchtown, also in Griffin Heights, and a few other areas around Tallahassee, but that's primarily where I invest.
Okay. And do you have any specific reason why you selected those locations?
I mean, the main thing was, you know, I went to FAMU. I'm a FAMU alum. I worked at FAMU for about 10 years as well. And I just always felt like the area around FAMU should be like an oasis, right?
Yeah.
It's so many distinguished people who come from FAMU, people who go on to make millions, to do this, to do that. And the campus was kind of surrounded by kind of like the hood, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, to me, that's just not right. So I was thinking that, you know, one of the main things that we need to do is come back, buy up these properties, develop some things, and then really bring the neighborhood up.
Okay. So going back to that, like, and you're saying you went to FAMU, right? You're a graduate at FAMU.
Yep.
How was that experience like just around that time?
Man, it was a great time. You know, I always tell people, you know, FAMU's changed over the years. I mean, some good, some different, but whatever. You know, I was there during a great time. A lot of excitement. You know, the band, the Marching 100. I played football, so Football was a good time. So we had a lot of great times, man. I mean, FAMU has changed, but hasn't changed. So it's still always a good vibe.
Of course. So even while you was there at FAMU, you know, especially me being a senior at Florida State University, and I'm really getting into who I am as a person, as a human being. I hit a point in my life where at like a certain age or certain grade level, I was like, yo, I need to, you know, pour into myself a little more, or maybe I need to do this for the community. Did you have something of relevant experience to you?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I was an education major when I was in undergrad. So my senior year, my second semester of my senior year, we had to do student teaching. Okay. So that's when I really started getting more into the Tallahassee community. Because, you know, when you're in school, you just kind of, you know, you don't really interact much with the local community. But the more time I spent in the community, I realized there were wonderful people, but there was a lot of need, right? Yeah. There's a lot of need for mentorship, a lot of need for people to reach out, and also a lot of need for investment in those communities. So that's what kind of encouraged me to get into that. So what I did was I ended up getting my real estate license when I was a senior in college. So that's how I got into real estate. I got my license, became a real estate agent, and worked with some developers and other people like that. So that was kind of my introduction into real estate.
So what year did you make your first real estate investment?
I bought my first property in 2011. Yep. So what was that, 13 years ago? Yeah. So I still actually have my first two houses. So the first two properties that I bought, I still own them to this day. Matter of fact, the first property that I bought, I never even lived in, right? So it was a duplex. I just rented out. And then right after that, I bought the house that I currently live in now. And then, you know, from there, I just kept buying additional properties.
So tell me a little about the duplex. I know word on the street, of course, you know, it's all Instagram, TikTok, everything you see. You have like certain loans that you could, and grants you could apply for to make sure you get that property, like the HOA. Not HOA.
FHA.
FHA. I always mess the two up.
Yeah.
But is that something that you got at the time, or like what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So the way I did for myself, I did a conventional loan for my duplex, right? Okay. So the duplex I bought, I put 20% down through a conventional loan. My personal residence, I put 3% down and did an FHA loan.
Okay.
So with the FHA, you can only do one at a time. So I could have bought the duplex with an FHA loan if I wanted to, and just put 3% down. but because it was that I did not plan to live there. Now, let's just say I wanted to kind of like, let me not say finesse, but let me just say finesse the system. I could have acted like I was going to live in a duplex and just put 3% down on that one. But actually, crazy thing was my single family home that I bought was much more expensive than the duplex, right? So it actually made more sense to use my FHA loan for my personal residence than it did for the duplex because it would have been a much bigger down payment.
Okay, so for those who don't know, could you kind of break down the two loans? Like, what are the different criteria that you have to reach for those loans?
Yep. So with a FHA loan, you have to put anywhere between 3 to 10% down on the property. And they're basically just going to look at, your job, where you work for the last 2 years, and look at your income and basically how your income compares to what the mortgage is.
Okay.
A conventional loan, you have to put 20% down, right? So you have to come with more money down. But they're not as strict on your criteria on how much money you make, right?
Okay.
So you have to make I would say hypothetically you could make less money and still buy a property with a conventional loan because the loan that they're providing you is not as risky because you already put 20% down.
Okay. So that's pretty cool, man. And of course, like, we're a little into the conversation, but definitely want to give it a round of applause for you because congratulations, man, for real, just being a black man, being able to graduate, find something you love to do, and even just go do it.
For sure.
So, and that's just a very pivotal point in life that, we just all have to do at some point. So even going with that, so what are like 3 things that people really struggle with when they try to go buy their first property?
So it's typically 3 things. So let me preface it by saying this. When people want to get into real estate investing, right? So the biggest problem that most people have is when they want to get into real estate investing, it's typically after they tried to buy a personal residence, right? So the process of buying your personal home that you're going to live in yourself and buying an investment property are 2 totally different processes, right? It's totally different lenders, totally different criteria, totally different everything, right? So it's just there's no comparison. So a lot of people pretty much put self limitations and self doubts on themselves based on what happened during their home buying experience. But the investment experience is totally different. So just for example, right? When I bought my personal residence, they had to look at my bank statements. They wanted to see my taxes. I mean, just all types of stuff. I had to provide them with everything possible, right? When I start buying investment properties, all they want to see is how much is the property worth, how much are you buying for, how much are you going to sell it for. Like they just want the business plan. But as far as looking at my personal finances, they don't really dig very deep into my personal finances outside of just my credit score.
Okay. So when it was time for you to go get that loan, were you doing that under LLC or were you doing that under you?
Right. So when you do an investment property, you're going to do it under LLC.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to use your LLC to qualify for, but the LLC itself doesn't have to qualify for anything. So in real estate, most people start brand new LLCs for every property. So you can just start, 101 Main Street LLC, whatever, or John Johnson Real Estate LLC. It doesn't have to have any money. It doesn't have to have any income, anything like that. It's an LLC specifically for that property. They call it a special purpose entity. That's where that word comes from. So as far as the 3 main problems that people have when they are buying investment properties is that 1, they can't find money. 2, they can't find a deal, or 3, they don't know how to fix the deal when they find it, right? So let me kind of just break down all 3, right? So let me start with finding deals, right? The biggest issue that people have with finding deals is that they don't really understand value, right? So they don't understand the after repair value, and they don't understand the cost of renovations, right? Because generally speaking, in most instances, the main way you're going to get a deal on a real estate property is that it needs repairs, right? So the roof is a hole in the roof or some other issue, things like that. Those are the ways that you find real estate deals. So if you're going to be able to capitalize on that, you have to be able to estimate the cost of repairs before you buy it, right? So what'll happen is a lot of people will buy a property and they'll underestimate the cost of repairs, right? So they'll be like, oh, it's only going to cost $20,000 to fix. then it ends up costing 50.
Yeah.
Right. So you thought you had a deal, but you really didn't. Right. Or vice versa. They might overstate the cost of repairs. They might think, oh, it's going to cost $100,000 to fix this house, but it's really only going to cost 50. Right. So these are all things that you got to think about as you're kind of going through the process.
Okay.
When it comes to finding good contractors, the thing I always say is there's no such thing as a good contractor. Right?
Why do you say that?
There's no such thing as a good contractor. There's only good contracts.
Oh, ooh. That's a gem right there. That just changed my perspective because that's in any field of work. That's
right?
not.
I'm saying anyone, if allowed to do whatever they want to do, will do something wrong, right? Or could potentially do something wrong, or could underperform, or whatever, do outside of what you said. However, the contract, if you follow the contract and you write the contracts properly, that makes the person have to perform, right? So what happens is, this is what happens to a lot of people, right? I'll just kind of go through a scenario so we can kind of break things down. So a lot of people will say, okay, John, contractor, comes to you and says, I'm going to renovate this house for you, and it's going to cost $50,000, right? So I say, okay, it costs $50,000 to fix the house. So John says, okay, I'm ready to get started. Me and the crew will have it done in 3 weeks, but I need $25,000 right now to get started, right? Now, to most people, that sounds reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Give them half up front, let them get started, get running. Okay. What if after a week you come in and John's doing a terrible job and you want to fire him?
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do?
Especially when you're under a contract.
And you already paid him $25,000, right? So you paid the man $25,000. So how much of that money do you get back? Or do you get any of it back? And there's a contract that's governing that, right? So the biggest problem that a lot of people make is they pay too much money up front, right? And they don't pay based on progression, and they don't have quality controls and quality checks within their contracts, right? So it's not enough to say, okay, we finished painting the wall, but what if it looks terrible?
Yeah.
Right? But let's say it's painted, right? So you have to have something in your contract that states the level of quality, right? Okay. Or for example, let me go back to the paint example. When you paint a house, when you paint something, generally speaking, you have to prime and paint, meaning that you put 2 coats, like a white coat and then the color, because you don't want the colors to bleed through and all the weird textures and stuff like that, right? You want it to look professional, right? So if you look at a professionally painted wall, it's going to have prime and paint. But if you don't put that in your contract, they'll say we painted it. Wow. And even if it looks crappy, we'll say we painted it. You didn't say how many coats. You didn't say anything, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you don't put that in your contract, even if the person's a good person, there's no way to hold them accountable, right? And accountability is the main thing, because 9 times out of 10, the person who you contract with is not going to be the actual person doing the work, right? So if you hire, if you say, hey, Chris, can you come renovate my house, right? Yeah. Yes, I can. But am I going to actually do the work? No, I'm going to sub the work out to someone else, right? So what I'm saying is, that's why you have to have everything in your contract that explains exactly what's going to happen, because now you don't want anything getting lost in translation, all right? So if you say, well, Chris, I told you this. Yeah. Okay. Who can prove that, right? Yeah. Where's it in writing? Evidence. So if I told you in writing that, hey, look, we need this, and this. Now, even if you're going to sub it out to someone else, you need to take that and give it to them and say, look, this is what has to be done. Yeah. Right? Another thing a lot of people make a mistake on is that they don't ensure that the person, let's say, for example, check this out. I'm going to tell you a funny story, right? Let's say I pay you to fix my house, right? Everything gets fixed. Everything's fine. I pay you, right? But you don't pay the people who worked on the house. Sheesh. Right? Those people can put a lien on your house for their money, even though you paid him.
So, and you're saying a lien on your house as in what? What does that mean specifically?
So explain. A lien basically means that if you try to sell the house, you're going to have to pay them all first before you get any money. Wow. Right? So I paid you $25,000 to come fix my garage. It's fixed. But you didn't pay your workers. They can go and place a lien on my house. right?
So that means, let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. So that means when you go sell your house, you have to pay that $25,000 first
to the workers first, right? After, you know, the other the mortgage stuff. So what I'm saying is you have to actually make sure that your contractor pays their subcontractors, because that can come back to bite you. All right. Now, of course, there's a lot of legal blah, 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 blah in between. But what I'm saying is these are things that you got to think about. Right. So what I'm saying is that's why I say good contracts make good contractors, because there's so many things that can go wrong in between. Right. We don't think about all the problems that we can have. And that's why you need lawyers. Right. So a lot of times somebody's like, I don't want to pay a lawyer, da, da, da. But what I'm saying is you pay a lawyer $200-$300 to draft up a contract for you. Right. That might sound like a lot of money, but I can save you thousands of dollars later on down the line just by having the right contract, right? So these are just little things to think about when you're dealing with contractors that the average person is never going to think about, right? Because they're new, they're just jumping in, they're excited, and they make a lot of mistakes, right? That especially happens to a lot of people who buy properties like cash, right? So you go in and you buy, let's say like at a tax auction or you buy some cheap house, right?
Yeah.
So you buy a cheap house for like $10,000, right? You buy it cash because you guys have 10 grand sitting around, right? Then you go and hire a contractor. But what I'm saying is you don't have anybody who's providing any type of oversight on the renovation process. Versus if you get a loan from a bank or a rehab loan, they're going to make you get lien waivers.
Yeah.
Every time that you pay somebody, you have to make them sign a lien waiver.
So no matter if you got to pay me 5 different times, you're breaking it up into 20%.
Every time I pay you, you're signing a lien waiver and saying that I paid you this amount and you are waiving any right to a lien on the property. Because someone could come back later and say, he never paid me. Now, of course, you could prove it and go to court, but what I'm saying is if you don't have any type of contract to go back on, it's going to be your word versus the contractor's word, right?
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to make is, not to get into like a whole just tangent on this. What I'm saying is it's very, very complex, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I don't suggest when people come straight out the box that they get into these very extensive rehab projects, because you don't have the training and the background to be able to manage the project. So
that's a very key point right there. So let's kind of go off of your experience, like your first deal and that transaction in your investment property. What were some of those holes that you had to figure out for yourself, trying to figure out like, okay, next time I go do this, I'm gonna do it this way.
Right. So what I did was, there's a lot of different ways to get into real estate, right? So I chose to go the route of doing the work myself, right? The DIY route, right?
Yeah.
So I bought the house, and I renovated the house out of my own pocket, right? So the way I did it was I did the work and I just hired like a couple little handyman to help me, right? So we would go to the Home Depot, buy the supplies. I paid them like $100 a day, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And we basically went in there and did the work together.
Okay.
Now that worked for me because I was handy and, had some background in construction and whatnot. Now, if you have no background in construction, you don't know how to do anything, that's not going to work for you.
It's definitely not going to work.
Not for me. But now here's what's funny about this, right? And this is what I'll say. If you are not even a handyman, right, but just a generally healthy, able-bodied person, you actually can do it yourself, right? And when I say yourself, not yourself as in you do everything, but you can hire a skilled person and help them, right? So it might be the opposite, right? So you might, there's in any given job site, right? There's something that kind of just break down how construction works. You have skill and you have labor, right? So if you are skilled, you're the person with the talent who knows how to do stuff. If you're labor, you're the one who's just there helping, right? So the skill is telling you what to do and you're doing it, right? So skill saying, hey, listen, cut this 16 inches by 16, put this right there, and they can come and fix little problems, stuff like that. That's skill, right? And a lot of times if you go on a job site, you'll see like older people are the skill because they have the experience, but they may not be physically healthy anymore, right? So I've even been to job sites where like an older man in a wheelchair telling the young guys, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, because he's the skill. So what I'm saying is anybody can be the labor. So as long as you're able-bodied, you can do it. So you can go out and hire someone who's like an ex-contractor, ex-whatever, and say, look, I'll pay you $100, $150, whatever, whatever you can afford to show me how to do this work, and you can do it yourself. All right. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I would suggest a lot of people look into, especially when you're younger, you don't have as much money, but you have more time and you have the physical strength to be able to do it. All right. Because once you get past a certain age, it becomes more difficult to do those type of things. So for like the younger people who are listening to this, definitely try to do a DIY. All right. I mean, it's not hard to paint. It's not hard to put floors down. It's not hard to do that. But you can save thousands of dollars by doing it yourself. Plus, you know that you're not going to be compromising on the quality because it's yours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yourself.
You ain't about to cut corners on your own house. Like, you going to paint everything right. You're going to make sure every little piece of the floor, you ain't going to, because it's yours, right?
Yeah.
And any problem, you're going to have to come back and fix. So,
and you genuinely care for it too. Like, it's literally your work.
And then you'll appreciate it, right? So, like, my house, I renovated most of my house myself. So I know everything about it. I remember it, and I take care of it because I did it, right? But then over time, obviously as you scale, you'll meet better contractors, you'll meet better people, things like that, and then you'll be able to sub the work out to other people.
Okay.
Yep. So as far as funding for deals, right? What I tell people is, if you can't find money, you don't got a good deal. Or you don't know how to express what you got, right? So it's either one of the two. Either you don't know how to explain what you have, or you don't got it, right? So that's why I tell people, don't be afraid to go ask people for money, because they'll give you feedback on your deal, right? But that's only if you're pitching to the right people. So one of the biggest mistakes people do is they go and ask people for money who don't got it.
Yeah.
All right? So it doesn't matter how good of an idea you have. It doesn't matter how good of a property you have. If the person doesn't have the money, they don't got the money, right? Now, people who have the money and who are able, willing, and able to invest in real estate, those are the people whose feedback is valuable to you, right? People who don't got the money, who never invested in real estate, there's really no point. Let me not say there's no point, but there's very little impact. Their feedback has very little impact because they're not a person who was going to invest regardless.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not investing. They're not investing because the deal's not right. They're not investing because they just don't want to invest in real estate. Right. So like, I got a couple friends, all they invest in is cryptocurrency. So I bring them real estate deals from time to time, but they just believe in cryptocurrency. That's their thing, you know? So it's nothing on me because I'll go raise the money from anybody. It's just that they just don't want to do that with their money.
Yeah, facts. You got to find somebody in your area though who really knows, like, if we have the same interests, of course, then we can hang out 24/7. But at the end of the day, like, you know how the world works. You have to make money in the world. You got to pay your bills. So if we can't work together and we both accomplishing the same thing, then I'm gonna make sure I have to go about my day and do what it is that I have to do and just hang out with the people or do the things in that particular field. So that's definitely one thing about it that I could see why people have that struggle. Because honestly, too, I think another thing that we do lack just as people as well is we don't understand that we could go make our own resources and create our own opportunities.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So when you were walking into that field, what was that story like? Like when you let's take a step back really quick. So with your first property, did you have the funds and everything to automatically go put that 20% down, or you had to kind of work your way towards that?
Yeah, so my first property I saved up, right? So, I just stayed down,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, and saved my money up. I mean, so that's the biggest thing I tell people, especially like young grads. The biggest temptation when you first graduate is I made it.
Yeah.
Let me go buy this car. Let me just go everything, you know what I'm saying? And what I tell the advice I give to most people is that, listen, if you live the same way you lived in college for about 2 years after you graduate, but you're making the grown salary, but you still got roommates, still, all the same stuff, just because, in college, you're always trying to conserve money, right?
Yeah.
If you live that same way for a year or two, you'll have enough saved up to buy a house, saved up to buy a car, everything like that, and you'll be good. You'll be on your way for the rest of your life, right? Because if you buy a house in your 20s, by the time you get to your 30s, you're going to have probably 6 figures worth of equity in your house, right? So the people who bought houses 10 years ago, right, when they're in their 20, or whatever age they were in, right? If you bought a house 10 years ago, it's probably worth, a lot of them doubled by now, right? Some of them even tripled. I think my house is quadrupled.
Yeah,
from when I bought it. Some of them 5-6x. I mean,
I was about to say.
I'm saying, I mean, and that's not normal. I mean, you know, that's definitely it's been exceptional. But what I'm saying is that one asset is everything you need, right? So just put it like this: you buy a house, right? You live there, whatever. Then all of a sudden, now you have $100 grand worth of equity in your house. Let's say you want to start a business. You can get a home equity line of credit from that house. Take that money and start a new business. Just like that.
Easy.
Just like that. You know what I'm saying? Just with one property. All right? Just imagine if you had other rental properties, other things like that, you know, that you could do the same thing on. All right? And what I'm saying is you could take that. So let's just say I'll just use an example. You have $100 grand in equity. You say, well, I'm not going to take the whole 100. I'm going to take 50 grand. And I'm going to open a Subway franchise, or I'm gonna buy a whatever, some like, you know, good business. And you could buy a lot of businesses with that money, because remember, let's say you want to even buy a more expensive business, right? Something that costs maybe like $500,000. You can take that money and use an SBA loan that you only got to put 10% down to buy a business. So you could take that $50,000 and go buy a $500,000 business that's probably already profiting $100 grand a year. So now you just added $100 grand a year to your income on top of what you're already making. So there's just so many things that you can do if you just play the game right. Right. So, but it all starts with making the right decisions when you first start touching money. All right. And that's the hardest thing for a lot of people, is make the right decision when they first start touching money, because, you know, you have to distance yourself from certain things and certain people. Right. After you start elevating, okay, now you the person with money, right? So now you got all these girls that gonna come out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? You got all your cousins and friends and all that asking for this. Oh, let me hold something, man. Can I stay with, you know,
Yeah, I see what you're doing over there. Let me get $1 bit, bro.
Then you gonna get a lot of. Let's talk to the fellas here, right? You know, there's a lot of pressure from women, especially nowadays. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know,
come on now.
They want you to buy them Gucci and Louis and take them on vacations and It's like, man, that stuff get expensive, bruh. Then they'll be talking about you. Oh, you got a roommate. Why you don't live by yourself? And Not knowing that just having a roommate. Just think about this, right? If you got a roommate, and let's just say y'all split bills, and it come down to, let's say, $1,000 a month or $800 a month, whatever. Let's say $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's $12,000 a year.
That you
saving. In 2 years, that's $24,000.
3 years, 36. Just keep going up. That's facts.
Now you already got the money to buy a house.
That's
you know what
facts,
I'm saying? If you say, look, I'm gonna sacrifice, stay down, and I'm gonna get a roommate. In 2 years, now you got enough money to buy a house. You saved enough money to buy a house just from saving on bills, right? Plus the money that you saved on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So now you set for life, right? Just by making a couple smart decisions and not allowing people to pressure you into living a lifestyle that you're not ready for yet, right? Now, there's some people, you know, they have parental support. They got people in their family who can put them in a position where, okay, they can stay in this expensive apartment. They can do this, they can do that. But you got to just know what economic bracket you in.
Yeah.
Right? And not try to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right? Just stay down till you got it. That's what I always tell people, man. Stay down till you got it, because when you got it, if you stay down till you got it and you get it and you got it for real, then you're going to be there forever. Right? There's nothing better than being up and knowing that you up and stuck. You know what I'm saying? You want to be up and stuck. That's what I always tell people, bro. And the only way to be up and stuck where you ain't coming back down is to do it right. If you try to cut corners, you try to play games, you try to take shortcuts, you'll be up and then pow. Because you didn't build the right foundation.
Yeah.
Right? So these are just things to think about. And investing in real estate requires that, right? Because real estate is expensive, right? Things happen. Like, for example, my duplex, I got to replace the air conditioning because of the hurricane or the tornadoes that happened a couple months ago. I'm still going back and forth with my insurance company. Maybe they'll give me the money, maybe they won't. But it's still somebody living there right now, so we gotta make it work. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta find a way. I got to find a way to do things like that. So these are the type of things that you have to think about that a lot of people don't consider. That's very, very important in order to have the proper economic balance and the economic might to be able to make it through tough times.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's real game right there, man. I really appreciate that. So, like, even going forward, well, back then at the time, were you thinking about doing any other type of rentals, or you was always just like, once you seen real estate, it was like, yeah.
So real estate's always been my thing. So, in at that time, that was before Airbnb and other types of things. I mean, there's certainly other rental opportunities. Here's what's funny about Airbnb and some of these other things, right? Back in the days, people did stuff like that. It just wasn't called anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So people was always doing Airbnb type stuff, renting rooms out, renting this, They just made it more sexy, and made it more like systematized, So, but that's never was my thing, because I always wanted my rental properties to be like low maintenance, low management. Let me say that. So I don't want to have to be checking people in, checking people out, doing this, doing that. I just don't, that's not my thing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I want to fix it, rent it out, and then, if something breaks, let me come fix it, and that's it. I want to really be dealing with day-to-day, dealing with tenants and stuff like that.
That's a lot of time that's gone. It's
a lot of time, quick. Man. And what you'll find is that with Airbnb or other, let me say, short-term rentals, is that there was a lot of revenue, but not a lot of profit, right? Because all that revenue coming in, the expenses were high, because now you got to pay utilities. Now you got to pay all these cleaning fees. Now you got to do this, you got to do that. So what people realize is that actually the most profitable thing to do was to do the cleanings, right? The cleaning fees is where the money is in Airbnb, but it's only there if you clean it yourself, right? So the people who clean the places themselves are actually getting the bag. You know what I'm saying? Because you're charging a cleaning fee, but it's just going straight to you. All right. So things like this, little things like that. So you'll learn over time. Airbnb works for certain people in certain markets. Not that great in Tallahassee. So for me, just regular rentals were my thing. I prefer Section 8, just people with vouchers, get my money, on the first, whatever. I ain't got to worry about all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. And ultimately, that's what's needed. You know what I'm saying? We got enough Airbnbs, we got enough hotels. Regular, everyday people need a place to live. So that's really the market I want to be in.
And so with that market going forward, like, how do you want to give back to that market and make sure you're really putting a footprint in it and make sure people even know your name? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, so my biggest thing was I've always bought like abandoned properties, rundown properties, empty lots, things like that. So my work has always been in basically transforming the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So, you can drive past any of the properties I've renovated and you'll know, okay, somebody fixed this thing. Like I remember yesterday somebody drove past a townhouse I was renovating. It was like, wow,
it's beautiful.
This thing ain't never looked like this before. Like,
I gotta go see what properties he got over there, man.
And it's just crazy because, like, what people don't realize is that the visual environment that you live in impacts you, right? When you walk past ugly houses all day, then you feel ugly, right? When you walk past rundown, overgrown grass, all that.
Yeah, you feel it. It's like an energy.
It's
thing,
an energy,
like,
bro. Just like when you go to the suburbs, nice neighborhood, you feel nice.
Oh my gosh,
you know what I'm saying?
It's amazing.
Exactly. People walking in the streets, everybody talking. It just provides a different level of energy. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm saying is that is what we want to bring to every neighborhood, because every neighborhood deserves that. No matter what the economic level of the people in the neighborhood are, they still deserve a nice environment to live in.
Of course.
They deserve, crime free. They deserve free of, overgrown houses, abandoned, boarded up, like all that type of stuff. No neighborhood should have that, right? There'll certainly be neighborhoods where the houses are smaller, or not as mansions and all that type of stuff, which is fine. But every neighborhood should be nice, and acceptable, where people can live in just in different economic statuses.
Yeah, for sure. So even right now, like, do you have any programs for like college students or like, you know, people who are looking to buy rental properties? What's your next steps? What are you trying to do for the most part to make sure you are giving the game that you know, the knowledge that you know, and you're pouring into the community that the way you want to?
Absolutely, man. So for the last couple of years, I've done a mentorship program. I've helped close to 100 people buy their first investment property. So it's been very, very successful. I've helped a lot of people, right? So now I'm trying to expand that even further, right? And we're starting a community, right? So it's called SMRT Capital, which is the name of my brand, SMRT Capital, which is a community that shows people about investing, about real estate, a lot of things like that, right? So what I learned was we need a community. People need community, right? So we're starting a community where basically people can join our community and just pay like a monthly subscription. And we're going to have weekly Zooms. We're going to have monthly meetups, and we're going to have hands-on events at properties that we're renovating, right? So you're going to get all the experience that you need, right? So you get the weekly Zooms. We're going to talk about different components of real estate. You're going to be able to network and meet the right people that you need to meet. Plus, you're going to be able to see hands-on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? So these are things that I'm excited to talk about, because for a long time, you know, one of the things I've always tried to do, my mentorship program was very affordable, you know, compared to other ones. But even for certain people, you know, it still was a lot of money, right? So the monthly subscription in the community is going to be much more affordable, right? That any average person, right, for the price of a drink at Top Flight, maybe 2 drinks. Let's say 2 drinks. Let me say 2 drinks at Top Flight. You can learn about real estate for a whole month, right?
It could be you and your spouse,
you and your spouse, you and your girl, whoever. You know, I mean, look, we all done went to Top Flight, spent $100. If you done did that before, you could have been in our mentorship program or in our real estate community for half a year, right? So we're starting off. We're gonna have a special, right? We're gonna start it off at $19.99 per month, right? $20 per month, right? We're gonna start off for the first maybe 200 or so. We'll talk to the management.
You know,
we'll talk to the management about that.
Get there.
The first or so people, right? $20 a month, right? That's the cheapest you're ever gonna get, right? Like I said, for the price of a Henny and lemonade, or, you know, some wings and fries and something like that, right? You're gonna be able to put yourself on the path to become a real estate millionaire, right? I know a lot of people have goals and aspirations of becoming a millionaire or becoming, you know, someone of high earning potential. This is how you do it, right? You have to get yourself around the right people. You have to have the right strategy. You have to sustain that strategy for a long time. You can't just, let me just learn something real quick, go on like a weekend you know,
you gotta be consistent.
You have to be consistent. That's why I suggest that everyone join the community, because that community is going to hold you accountable, right? So if you're not logging in on the Zooms, we're going to email you like, hey, why you not, what's going on? Why you haven't seen you? You know what I'm saying? If you're not coming to the events, we're going to, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to hold you accountable, and we're going to track your progress, and we're going to show you how to get to where you need to get. So that's why we're excited to announce the community coming up soon.
That's wonderful, man. Hey, y'all heard it from the man in the hour. That's my guy right there, man. He got a lot of game and gems for us, so we got to make sure we actually are able to join the community. And y'all stay tuned. We're going to make sure we keep, you know, getting just on set. We want to see your face a lot more, man. Just hear the game that you have for us, and make sure, you know, the communities that we're building for you, and just for the environment, for the globe, actually, because we're trying to take this global.
We're going global. We're definitely going global, man. I mean, we're going to be doing real estate not just in America, but also in Africa, in the Caribbean, all over the world, man. So just think as big as you want, right? Yes, and whatever you believe that you can achieve and that you're willing to work for, it can happen for you. So I was just going to say, if you want to find out more about what we're doing, follow me on Instagram. It's Chris Daniels, ChrisDaniels 1887 on Instagram, or Christopher Daniels on Facebook. And just, you know, tap in. We're going to be posting lots of stuff. We got an event coming up Thursday, September 5th at Pockets. So come out and network with us, meet a lot of good people, and start making steps towards your goal.
Hey, man, y'all heard it from. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're going to make sure y'all see a lot more of our faces. We promise y'all we're going to keep it up, man.
Let's do it.
Zyon Fleming, we're tuning out, and have a blessed day. We'll see you next time.
For sure.